episode 9 of Keeping It G with G, the podcast. So, I am back with another episode after my brief hiatus in which I explained on last week. I posted on my Instagram story, my personal Instagram and the podcast page as to why I didn't drop an episode last week. So if you're new and this is your first time tuning in, welcome, and I will bring you up to speed with the reason why I decided to take a brief hiatus from posting an episode. And I'll read it as followed. Once a month, usually in the second week of the new month, I'll take a week off from posting a new episode to brainstorm, do homework on topics, and to just take a mental breather. It's imperative in order for me to give you quality episodes on various topics so that I do not oversaturate the podcast. It's imperative for me to be my most authentic, transparent self, and by taking a week off each month, it'll help me to execute clearly. We'll resume with episode 9 next Monday, which is today. So, that's just a brief explanation as to why we didn't have an episode last week, but we have one now. So, the topic that I'm going to dive in this week is going to be don't take it personal. And the first thing that comes to my mind whenever I say don't take it personal is the song by Monica that's infamous, and that is a classic. And I may or may not play a snippet at the end. We'll see. For those who do not know that song, which if you're listening to this, I hope you do know it. But there was just a situation that happened this past week that made me revisit myself and how sometimes I tend to take things too personal. I'm hypersensitive. I'm human. I'm normal. So I had to do a little self-check, a self-reflection. I did some writing, of course, and I had to just have a come to Jesus moment and be honest with myself about how to not take things personal, because most times it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the person who is delivering the message. And this can be in your personal life or your professional life. So while I pride myself on not taking anything I may be going through or dealing with personally on anyone else, everyone is not like that. And by that, I mean, it could just be something simple as to you just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. So when you start to interact with people, like when you get to work, or it could be your spouse or a friend, if you're just not in the mood, it's easy for you to take that out on other people. And I have come to a point in my life where I can control that and kind of reel it in and not take it out on that person, even if I am dealing with my own shit. So, before I go taking shit personal, if I can sense that someone is in a bad mood, I try to factor in the fact that, especially if their delivery is aggressive, or if they just look like they're not in the mood, or if their message is coming off as nagging or complaining, I can already tell that shit has nothing to do with me and everything to do with some shit that they have going on. So let me be sensitive to that and take that into consideration for the sake of them, because if I react, then all hell will break loose, and I just don't have that type of time. So now, if someone is coming to you with an issue that they are just genuinely trying to help you, whether it be a friend, a family member, your boss, etc., then take heed of that, because a lot of the time we do need to be checked or corrected. And plus, you want to be surrounded by people who will call you out on your bullshit and want to see you do better, but also take note of the delivery, the tone of voice, and the body language. I'm observant, so off the rip, I'm paying attention to all the above so that I know how to handle the situation. And be sure to speak up and say how you feel if you didn't agree with the delivery or the way the message came off, because we're human and sometimes we can be hypersensitive and we can take things personal, but most times it's not about us, it's about the person. So try to make sure you get to the underlying issue of the delivery or the message, because most of us are defensive. We've been taught that since children, to defend ourselves, but to be able to differentiate when it's genuine constructive criticism or when it's nagging or just an unsolicited opinion or advice is crucial. And I try to make sure that I can, I'm compassionate when I'm sharing my advice or my opinion, because I can be very blunt. And while I don't mean to hurt people's feelings, I know that I can come off that way. So I try to make sure I can think my thoughts through and my delivery through and my message through before I regurgitate that information to them so that they can be receptive to it. Because I've learned that if you want someone to be receptive to what you have to say, even if you're upset, you have to watch your tone of voice, your body language, in your delivery, because if you don't and the conversation becomes like an attack or aggressive, then all chances of the person hearing you out is out the window. So just be mindful of that, because the other person is human too. A book that helped me, I think I talked about that in a previous episode, that helped me to kind of have a better spirit of discernment in just my delivery or dealing with people's emotions or dealing with my own emotions, is The 4 Agreements. That book, I'm probably going to really go back and read that book, because I feel like I need to kind of reiterate some of the things that book has taught me in my life. I kind of need to revisit that right now. And if you haven't read that book, I have the PDF email. If I know you personally, you could just hit me up for it and I'll send it to you. And I'll put the actual physical link to the book from Amazon in the show notes. So be sure to check the show notes out if you're interested in that book. I read an article too about how to not take things personally, and some ways that you can try to figure out if you are one of those people who do take things personally, and how you can kind of deal with that in a better way. So I'm going to pull it up in just a second. So it says how to not take things personally, and why you might take things personally. Realize that other people's rudeness is not about you. Like I said before, you never know what people are going through, so you have to take that into consideration. As well, don't let people disrespect you. So be sure to speak up, like I said before. Another bullet point is ask yourself what else the comment or behavior might mean. For example, if someone doesn't smile or say hello, they might be shy, have something on their mind, or they just didn't see you. If someone is critical, they may be genuinely wanting to help you, and it might not be intended as a personal attack. So again, have that spirit of discernment where you know if it's personal or not. And the next one says, take comments or criticism in a constructive way. If you are criticized, ask yourself if there's any truth to it and what you can learn. Take the lessons and let the rest go. Even if it wasn't said in a nice way, you can still learn something, as well as learning from your own experience. The next one says, take a different perspective. Ask yourself how an unbiased outsider would see the situation. Are you misinterpreting the reality? And is it really as bad or as negative as you perceive it to be? And then the next one says, realize that you cannot please everyone. No matter who you are or what you do, there will always be people who dislike or criticize you. You can't change other people, and all you can do is be yourself. Let go of perfectionism. It's okay to make mistakes and have flaws. It's okay. It's a part of being human. You won't learn to grow if you don't make mistakes. The next one says, know that you're not defined by your mistakes or criticism. Don't let what other people think about you dictate what you feel about you. You are who you are. God made you who you are for a reason. So keep that in mind. Don't ever forget that. The next bullet point, and the last bullet point, says, get mental health. Seek help from a professional about overcoming personal issues. It can be challenging if you don't have to do it alone. It can be challenging and you don't have to do it alone. I'm sorry. It's important to know that there is help available and it's okay to seek it. So if you can't afford therapy, I'm going to say it again, journal, reach out to a trustworthy friend or family member, but just don't keep it bottled in. Just remember, like I said, to keep in mind that most times it's not about you. Some people could just be going through something personal, and to speak up when you feel threatened, and make sure that it's not a personal attack or like a nagging and complaining, and be able to communicate this effectively so that it's not an argumentative situation, but to where you can get how you feel out, and that at the end of the situation, you can come to a common ground about just respecting each other's feelings and respecting each other's space. So again, that's going to wrap up the episode. Don't take it personal, y'all. You just really never know what other people are going through. So you have to be sensitive and compassionate towards other people. So that's going to wrap up the episode. Don't forget to submit any questions or advice to my personal Instagram page or the Keeping It G with G podcast page. It's all in secret. So don't be scared to ask if you need advice or have any questions. And thank you to you guys who are leaving the great reviews and the feedback on the podcast. I truly appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. And I will talk to you guys next week for episode 10. And don't forget to check the show notes for the 4 Agreements book if you're interested in reading it. And you guys have a great week. And I will talk to you guys next Monday for episode number 10. Have a blessed week, y'all.